Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been an ongoing franchise since 1998 and has evolved from a dark manga about a lonely teenage boy who likes board games to one of the most successful trading card games ever released. One of the most diverse ways to enjoy this franchise, however, comes in the form of video games, which have varied mechanics, stories, and way to ogle cool monster designs. So let's take a walk through different kinds of games that exist throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's 20-year history, going from 1998 all the way through to 2021. And let's see exactly how we got here. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 7: The Duel City Legend came out in Japan on July 4th, 2002. The game would come stateside, titled as Yu-Gi-Oh! The Sacred Cards, on November 4th, 2003, which is decidedly a less funny date for it to come here than its Japanese release date. The game was released on the Game Boy Advance and would utilize sprite art as well as key art from the manga for various character portraits and location design to immerse the player in a true role-playing experience, in which they would maneuver through the events of the Battle City, or Duel City for the Japan heads, arc. The game saw relative success, selling 238,000 units in Japan and over 750,000 units in the United States alone, leading it to just under 1 million units sold total. Enough for it to warrant a sequel. Interesting point, several of the cards used in this game use either their original OCG art, which was otherwise altered or censored in the TCG, or in the case of Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and Red Eyes Black Dragon, they use the SGC's Championship prize card artworks. I have long clamored for a re-release of Red Eyes' art in particular. Red Eyes' traditional LOB artwork is also found in the game in the card shop. The North American release of this game came with 3 cards, which were Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth, Ryoku, and Negate Attack, which would become a schoolyard staple soon after. The Japanese release also was limited to 3 cards, which included Dragon Master Knight, wow! Spell Shattering Arrow, and Visor Deaths. Interestingly, other territories who got this game would not get either sets of these promo cards, opting instead for older American spreads of promos from Forbidden Memories and Eternal Duelist Soul. While Spell Shattering Arrow would see some fringe play throughout its entire lifespan, Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth would terrorize speed duels for basically its entire life. There were 2 game guides released in Japan, as there always has been, which both included a promo card. One included Puppet Master, and the second had the Spell of Pain, which I think is a card I had never actually read until researching for this video, but apparently did also come out in the TCG. The story takes place during the Battle City arc of the manga and anime. However, instead of piloting young Yugimoto to victory against Merrick, you pilot a strange boy with an orange hat. You can name this boy whatever you like, and the characters all refer to you as if you are a good pal, so the game is essentially self-insert fanfiction. To the point that you actually derail the entire second half of the story by taking Obelisk the Tormentor for yourself in a duel against Kaiba to prove who is more worthy for it. And because you have to be in the finals and the game must have you fight somebody in them, you completely change who faces who to some very comedic effects. For instance, Kaiba faces Merrick in his stupid holographic Coliseum instead of Yugi and gets absolutely punked on by the Winged Dragon of Ra. This, of course, is nothing on the fact that Joey and Yugi just get all of their locator cards from presumed nobodies, while you are left to fight Bones, Rex, Seeker, Esperoba, Mako, Weevil, Strings, and Arcana, and that's not even all of them. This game also introduces the idea of Bandit Keith being a higher ranked soldier in the ghouls than the anime would have him. Keith doesn't even appear here in the manga, so someone just really wanted to see Captain K. Kona in this game, I suppose. Additionally, Yugi still loses against possessed Joey, but instead of a dramatic rescue from Serenity, your OC just jumps in to get Yugi and then just duels Joey himself. After winning, Joey just breaks free of his possession and all is good again, I suppose. Look, it's a GBA game, they could only do so much. The game wraps up with you fighting Yugi in the finals and then dueling Merrick as the final boss, at which point you are forced to give up the god cards to Ishizu, and then the game just ends. No save, no new game plus, just ends. A tight, albeit fairly brief video game experience. Getting to see your OC just do all of the Astoria events that other characters are involved in, including fighting Loomis and Umbra with an untransformed Yugi as opposed to Yami and Kaiba fighting them. Overall, the story's great, but mostly because it's just the well-paced arc of the manga, but now you're pasted into it, kind of like Kingdom Hearts 3 and Sora. This seems like a winning formula. Too bad this is the last time they would ever really do this kind of thing, though. We'll all have words to share about Reshef, I'm sure. This game continues the Duel Monsters line of games. You know, the ones where you fought duelists 5 times to progress and followed the rules of the anime more than the physical card game. What this means is that you have 5 card hands maximum, you'll only draw a card if you have less than 5, and a lot of the cards don't function quite how they do in reality. Each player has 8,000 life points still, and all decks consist of exactly 40 cards, so at least that's something to hold on to. Field spells and equip spells still have their fun little quirk of fading away from the field after applying their effects. Speaking of effects, monsters have them again. Some monsters that have effects in this game don't have effects in the physical card game, or in the anime, and the ones that do have effects don't have the ones that they actually have in reality. For instance, Time Wizard will magically transform a Baby Dragon or Dark Magician into Thousand Dragon or Dark Sage respectively. Doron also will just copy itself into another Doron, but Doron doesn't even have an effect in real life. Additionally, monsters with effects can only use them while they are face down, and your monsters flip up the turn after they are played. You can set them again with some cards, but basically you need to use the monster's effect the turn you play it. Just like in Duel Monsters 4, however, this means the monster cannot attack the turn you use its effect. Some story characters in this game have a field card already activated when you face them, which means their monsters will already have a huge boost over your probably very weak guys. Luckily, the field played is relatively obvious as it changes the entire color and texture of the playing field. The first time this really matters is fighting duelists in the aquarium, where Umi is already activated at all times. This is also the game teaching you that field bonuses can make a difference, and also gently encouraging you to build your deck around the type of cards that are being played. So, if everyone is playing water monsters, why not bring a deck full of thunder guys? I think this really works, and in a game without multiplayer, it encourages dynamic deck building across the whole experience. The monsters play on the attribute affinity chart like all the other games, and it's even the same as before. So things like water beats fire, fire beats grass, shadow beats light, light beats fiends, and obviously dreams triumph over shadows. That one makes the most sense out of all of them. Monsters of a greater affinity will always destroy the monster regardless of attack or defense value. Some cards in this game are video game only, which mostly consists of returning favorites like Mask of Shine and Dark and Yamadron Ritual, and some monsters are still ritual monsters, despite them long just being normal monsters for years at this point. I'm so sorry, Serpent Knight Dragon, you deserved better. Remarkably, this is the first Duel Monsters game to feature a full Yu-Gi-Oh! Board of spell and trap and monster zones. You can even set and play multiple spells and traps per turn. A great improvement from the one trap per turn of Duel Monsters 4. Traps will trigger as soon as triggering actions occur, just like before, so it's a good thing the computer is usually about as smart as rocks and attacks with the high value targets first. Still though, having Torrential Tribute be one-sided to your opponent in this game as opposed to both-sided like the real game makes it basically the most powerful trap in the game. Unlike previous entries, many of the spells and traps are relatively low cost. Before, a simple equip spell in Duel Monsters 4 would have cost you like 250 deck points just to put in one copy, and here it's a little closer to like 25 in a lot of instances. Speaking of deck cost, it has returned for a glorious campaign against your patience. Deck cost is once again implemented as a balancing measure to keep you from getting too strong too early. The game can be very friendly about the cards you get, the cards you can buy and see to essentially plan your deck for the future, as well as the amount of maximum deck point increases that you get. Story characters will reward you with a big boost, and nameless NPCs will reward you with a small boost. Duelist level also returns, which is meant to keep you from passwording into Summon Skull specifically, I imagine. Cards that are extremely high value are very high level and cost, which ensures that you do not win the game off of the back of Gemini Elf. For some aspects about the development team, the design director for this project was Nobuhiro Yamada, who also co-designed the card rules for Forbidden Memories with Takari Chida, who makes a return in this game as a programmer. Yukinobu Miyashita is also credited as a programmer in this game, and he would go on to be the lead event programmer for Persona 5 and also work on several Shin Megami Tensei games as a programmer. The producer for this project, Motoyuki Yoshioka, would produce several Yu-Gi-Oh titles throughout the early aughts. It's interesting to see that so many of these key members would stay together to work on these licensed titles throughout history. It's not uncommon for development teams to stay together to work on sequels, but seeing so much continuity through what are really just new entries in a popular brand, I think is a big part of why these games get so fondly remembered. Most reviews of this game specifically mention how short the game is, and it is very short. My playthrough of the game that you can find on this channel runs just under 5 hours, and that was with a little bit of wandering and grinding. The game definitely sets alight my nostalgia brain, and for that reason, I think this game is still a great time, even if it does collapse under the weight of its own balancing at some points. Also, as always, I should mention this game's soundtrack kicks, just like all the others, and really capitalizes on the Game Boy's uniquely quirky sound chip. All of the people credited with sound on this game would continue to work on other Konami projects, including Metal Gear, Zone of the Enders, and of course, Beatmania. I think much of this game's legacy is tied up in its marketing, which I know existed, but the internet failed to yield any of the TV spots to me. Either it's a Mandela thing, or I'm just really good at imagining fake commercials. Maybe you remember them out there too. As stated before, this game did get a direct narrative sequel, which is pretty uncommon for this franchise, but it actually is not our next title. Keep an eye out for some gameplay from the title that came out in December in Japan of that same year, Yu-Gi-Oh! The False-Bound Kingdom. I'll see you in the next one.